waking state, part B. Next slide, please. Hypnosis, part A. Next slide, please. Hypnosis, part B. Thank you. Both the waking and the hypnotic suggestion of the experience of anxiety and of the ascent of the lookout tower accelerated the heart rate against its basal values at the 1 per mil level of significance. In the female subsample, in the both suggestions, the heart rate was significantly higher in the waking state. This finding corresponds fully with the fact that although the scores of the anxiety experience and ascent of the lookout tower experience were for females in the waking state higher than in hypnosis. The results of our study agree with the findings of Barber and some other investigators. It is clear that the scores of identical items employed for testing waking suggestibility and hypnotic susceptibility differ inconsiderably. It means that it's possible in the waking state to influence psychic and somatic manifestation by suggestion similarly like in the hypnotic state. We believe that our results are in this respect convincing enough. Of course, this in itself does not solve the question whether or not the suggestibility activating in the waking state and that activating in hypnosis pertains to the same functional state. Both from the theoretical and practical standpoint, it would be appropriate to devote to the mentioned facts more attention than the promote, and thus to contribute to the solution of emerging questions. Thank you.
Some questions?
On the identification parade. The suspects confessed and withdrew their confessions by terms. They were sentenced respectively to 25 and 13 years in prison, although there were no physical evidence confirming their guilt. In this case, a hypnotist was called as an expert witness. It happened only in 3 of the cases under research. The Supreme Court, in its sentence passed in 1987, recognizing hypnosis as a medical treatment, accepted the hypnotist in such a law and rightly stated that a previously hypnotized witness could testify in court. Case number 2. Indecent assault. An elderly woman was raped with a stick. After the assault, the perpetrator showed her his identity card. During the induction, she recalled many details from the card, for though had some doubts. The hypnotist, however, was sure that the memories were true. The perpetrator remained unknown. Case number 3. A mother had strangled her baby and then feigned burglary. She confessed only to the hypnotist. Case number 4. A drunken man confessed to the police to the murder of his neighbors, which had occurred 6 years before. The next day he got sober, withdrew the confession, and stated that he had only wanted to be detained for 48 hours just to spite his parents, who didn't allow him to drink alcohol. Although there was no evidence against the man, he was being arrested for 6 months and released only after telling the same in hypnosis. Case number 5. Homicide. A witness during the interrogation described a man whom he had seen near the crime scene. In hypnosis, 5 months later, he told the man's surname. It was a neighbor of the victim. It is possible that the witness recognized that man at once, but didn't want to cast a suspicion on him. As we see, hypnosis can undoubtedly also act in an unspecific manner. The action consists in: first, inducing a suspect or a witness to change his false statements by a hypnotic situation itself, which is external to and independent from the police one. Secondly, confirming the veracity of suspect statements. If it is said in hypnosis, it must be true. Because of an unjustified belief of the police that hypnosis can be a substitute for polygraph. I would like to stress that the detection of deception was the aim of a half of all the inductions examined, but fortunately it always worked in favor of the suspect. And thirdly, supplying the police with sometimes useful leads. The genuine objections against forensic hypnosis derive not from the human rights, of course, but from methodological reasons. It seems that hypnosis has got too little diagnostic value to be recommended as evidence in the form of an expert witness testimony. It should be therefore used only as an investigative method, if at all. Nevertheless, the witness hypnotic memories can easily penetrate into the trial stage by ordinary depositions in court. So the judge's knowledge about the previous induction as well as the corroboration by other evidence are of great importance. Simply, we have to rely on the principle of free appraisal of evidence. It is obvious that hypnosis mustn't be treated only instrumentally. Although it doesn't automatically enhance memory and doesn't guarantee the truth, a hypnotic situation can sometimes help acting therapeutically, namely calming down a victim or creating for a culprit the opportunity to confess. In this therapeutical context, even more evident becomes the principal rule which ought to govern the forensic application of hypnosis. Primum non nocere. Thank you very much.
Das ist die erste und das ist die zweite. more time. Wait, can discuss full questions. No questions at all? Yes.
You have not spoken about how frequently the hypnotic obtained evidence actually was presented in court and what the outcome was of that process.
It was presented only in 3 cases, because in the other ones, a hypnotist helped only the police and wasn't presented his statements, his testimony in court at all. There were only leads for the police. And we have very limited practice, because these 30 cases, there were almost all the cases, all the Polish cases in which hypnosis had been applied.
In Poland, have police officers been trained to use hypnosis the way that they were for a time in the United States?
No, of course not. Usually, an independent hypnotist, a psychologist, helps the police.
What does it mean independent? That means from outside?
Yes.
From the university, for instance?
Yes.
Not from the police staff?
Independent from the police. He is outside the whole matter, the whole system, and usually works at the university.
So when those kinds of interviews are held to perhaps help with police leads, are they recorded, are they videotaped, are they audio taped? What protection surrounds that situation?
Very rarely they were recorded, and even if they were recorded, the records were of very poor condition, and frequently there were only a few remarks of the hypnotist.
So one of the problems in Canada is that the possibility of the hypnotist asking leading questions to legal answers, and so they must be recorded, so those could be examined if that was the case.
So the Polish practice needs improvement.
Well, you can improve them at home too.
More questions? Well,
Thank you very much.
and I think we could go on right now, so we got more time and have a little time for discussion.
I'd like to permit you our next speaker, Dr. Zivny from Czechoslovakia. The title is Psychoactivated Linguistic Methods. Please, Dr. Zivny.
Do you have a copy for
I sorry. Oh, I do like. It's a little early, so I don't know if we can wait for him.
start in time, and I would like to ask Peter Zivny from Prague to talk to us about psycho-activated linguistic method. He's working in private practice.
Unfortunately, my paper was not published in the booklet abstract, so I don't know how idea you have about my paper. Yesterday, in a restaurant in this city, as I asked some of our colleagues, Friday there are some paper of Zivny from Czechoslovakia about psychoactivated linguistic method. What do you mean about it? And the majority of person answer me it's something about Erickson as a neurolinguistic, but it's not exactly. I don't speak about Erickson. So if there are some person that is came to listen it, so you if they will go out, I shall not offend. So, okay. As companies become more international and begin doing business with other countries over different languages, the need to learn a second language increases. Members of small nations whose language is not spoken in the world feel this need above all. With the gradual process of the unification of Europe and the integration between nations, linguistic education is becoming an important condition of individual and social development. Learning a foreign language is a very complex process. It is quite difficult for many people and very often ends in absolute resignation. Many states feel it is important to begin the linguistic education in primary school, and there are tentative plans to begin language classes in the nursery. Pedagogists and psychologists dedicate a long time to the question relative to the teaching of foreign languages. Many textbooks and manuals, as well as a number of didactic methods, have been elaborated with the goal of facilitating the learning process. In spite of all progress in this field, however, the results are not quite satisfactory. Many specialists are looking for new ways to improve the learning process. When we analyze students on the basis of their results in school, we can distinguish three fundamental groups: good, average, and poor. Unfortunately, the teacher's knowledge of students is limited. Usually, he cannot inquire into the reasons for their bad results, and does he evaluate them only negatively. If every teacher could understand the results of psychological tests, then they would be better able to understand their students. They could have a different approach to every one of them. Learning also depends on our bodily and psychic health. High level of anxiety, pathological perfectionism, difficulties in social communication, flight of ideas, slow thinking, inferiority complex, weak will, and poor memory can be sufficient reasons for bad results. In addition, there can be a lack of motivation and interest to learn a foreign language, poor methods of learning, insufficient concentration and laziness. Another important aspect is the so-called negative social suggestion, i.e., it is very difficult to study a foreign language. We unconsciously receive this suggestion, and so we are negatively influenced. The students in Soviet Union consider the study of foreign languages to be the third most difficult subject to study after mathematics and Russian respectively. So it is easy to already have negative preconceptions that block language learning even before beginning to study. Among authors, there are various opinions about linguistic talent. We suppose that in every person there are certain abilities for learning a foreign language. However, these abilities depend on individual anatomic, physiologic dispositions and also on the influence of the environment. Even in the development of the native language of mother tongue speakers, we can see some differences. To measure linguistic abilities, intelligence tests are not the most accurate. Doing an intercorrelation study, Marikova 1989 showed that linguistic ability tests better measured the individual's capacity to acquire foreign language than intelligence tests. The other important factor is the personality of the teacher. They must be able to encourage their students and to create a friendly relationship with them. During the last 65 years, more than 90 hypnologists have studied learning in the hypnotic state in detail. The main focus was in hypermnesia, motivation, concentration, will, and age regression. The substantial research work relative to the effects of hypnotic suggestions on learning and memory was conducted mainly in the United States, for example, Barber, Parker, Krippner, Fowler, McCall, Scheller. However, the results of this research work are very different and often even contradictory. It seems that hypnotization and the process of learning are conditioned by many variable factors, and so it is difficult to obtain unequivocal conclusions. We find, however, very little research on learning foreign languages in the hypnotic state. Among the works of this kind, for example, we can quote experiments with the recall of memory traces of the Swedish hypnologist As, 1962. I think that you know very good this research work. A subject during his childhood has spoken only Swedish, later speaking only English. His first language is completely forgotten. However, during the age regression, the subject was able to recall knowledge of the Swedish language from his childhood. For many years, the Russian hypnologist Rykov has taught foreign languages in the hypnotic state. He works above all with subjects who have a high susceptibility to deep hypnosis. With these subjects, Rykov often obtains a spontaneous amnesia. With the suggestion, now you are an